Hi.
So, one of the questions that I've been meaning to ask you is you describe yourself as a recovered alcoholic, whereas a lot of people who are in the 12-step recovery movement call themselves or describe themselves as recovering alcoholics. And I am really curious to know what the difference is. What does that mean?
Yeah, it can be a point of contention in AA circles, and I'd like to say first of all, I'm not here speaking for AA. I'm not representing AA. I don't speak for them. I'm just speaking of my experiences as a person who is familiar with self-help 12-step programs. So these are my personal opinions.
Yeah.
I say that I'm a recovered alcoholic, and the reason for that is that I understand alcoholism primarily as a spiritual and emotional illness. So the conditions of alcoholism were existed in me long before I picked up a drink. Drink was the solution to that spiritual problem that I had of not feeling comfortable in my own skin, not feeling good enough, not being able to manage my fear, all of those feelings that just grew and grew, and then alcohol relieved. So alcohol was the solution to that, to the alcoholism. So then it became even more of a problem, and then I got sober, and then when I got sober, I stopped drinking. My life improved because I'd stopped drinking, as it will with anyone who's a problem drinker, just not having a hangover and being more reliable. But then I found I still had the problems of low self-esteem, not feeling good enough, feeling uncomfortable in my own skin, paranoia, fear, blah, 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 blah. And that's this, in AA terms, that's called the spiritual malady. So after a period of sobriety, I did the 12 steps, which transformed that internal condition. So I've recovered from that internal condition. I no longer feel that I'm not good enough. I no longer feel like I have a hole in my soul. I haven't felt like that for over a decade. I no longer feel like I'm uncomfortable in my own skin. I just don't feel that inner turmoil that always led me to drink. So I've recovered from the spiritual condition that causes alcoholism, if that makes sense.
And was it doing the 12 steps that enabled you to resolve that spiritual malady?
Yes.
Okay. So through looking at yourself through the 12 steps, that enabled you to work through whatever issues so that you then didn't feel quite so beholden to return to what you've done before in terms of drinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I no longer felt it's all behavior is a manifestation of feelings, always, every single time. So the reason I always behaved self-destructively, sober or drunk, was because I was always managing an internal condition. So once I was sober and I couldn't use alcohol or drugs to manage my internal condition, I had to find other tools and strategies. So the 12 steps were just tools and strategies that were far more effective and productive in allowing me to not just manage my internal condition, but recover from the conditions that caused it in the first place.
Okay. And so could somebody do other forms of kind of self-reflection and self-analysis with a different kind of therapist or specialist that would enable them to do the same work, not necessarily in a 12-step format, but to do the same work that would get them to the same point, do you feel?
I very, very passionately believe that if what you are doing ensures that you are A, sober, but B, most importantly, that you have freedom in your mind, you have emotional balance, that you are happy, joyous, and free, I'm all for it. So I certainly am not like this is the only way or that is the only way. I certainly think that there's many approaches to successful, sustainable sobriety. So my answer would be yes.
Cool. And so why do people still describe themselves as recovering alcoholics then? What's the difference?
That's a really interesting question, and this is my best guess. In AA recovery circles, there's a lot of misinformation. And
Okay.
there's the fellowship of AA and the program of AA. And the difference is the program of AA is the 12 steps and the literature that goes with it. The fellowship are the people who go to AA meetings and discuss recovery. And what's happened over the years is I've been to different meetings where it's like group therapy. That's not what a meeting is meant to be about. It's not group therapy. There's appropriate places to have group therapy. So there's lots of kind of out of context recovery, treatment, therapy terms sort of thrown in and sort of used arbitrarily that people then kind of like, that's all the AA program, and it's not.
Okay.
So recovering, I honestly don't know where that's come from, but it is not part of the AA program. It is something that has evolved out of time. I kind of have a slight theory, and when I work with new people, one of the things that's really clear about alcoholics is we really don't want to take responsibility for ourselves. Alcoholics would really want the magic pill, or they want something or someone else to be the problem. Alcoholics would rather do anything than have to take responsibility for themselves and get down and really do some hard, committed work. So I almost think the term recovering is kind of like this cop-out. Like, I'm recovering just for today. Who knows what could happen tomorrow? Now,
okay,
in many ways, nobody's sobriety is guaranteed. But also, I can't live my life just like I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow because I could drink, because that's ridiculous. But what has happened with the recovery program is I have been restored to sanity, and I have appropriate, normal, and sane reactions to life, whereas I didn't before. And relapse isn't something that happens very quickly. Usually, it's a process that happens over a period of time. But I think in some ways that's come from the recovery community, and it's part of the misinformation. It's not to say that that's not appropriate in a different context, but it's not within the AA program.
Okay, that's really interesting. Thank you, Veronica. That's really helpful. So what would be really good over our next sessions, if it's okay with you, is I would really like to look at the steps, because I'm genuinely interested. I've only been to one 12-step meeting myself, one recovery meeting, so I'm interested to learn what each of the steps means, and to see whether I can apply it to myself without necessarily having to go sit in the rooms to access that information. So that would be really helpful if you're okay with that.
Yep, looking forward to doing that next time.
Cool. Thank you very much. We'll start with step 1 next week then.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.